Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us.
I'm excited
Yeah, me too.
to dive into this one.
This is a good one.
Yeah, this is going to be great.
So today we're tackling, you know how some companies just seem so driven by like the founder's personality? It's almost like their personality, the brand.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we're going to figure out what happens when those companies need to like grow beyond that founder-led model and how that transition happens.
Yeah.
And we're going to use Paul Sparrow as our guide for today. And he has some really great insights.
He does. He has some really good stuff.
So,
Yeah. You know what's really interesting about this and what I love about this topic is that it's something that like every successful founder goes through, I feel like. It's like you pour your heart and soul into building something from scratch and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, this thing's outgrown, the space that it's in.
it's true. It's almost like the founder's superpower becomes their kryptonite. And Sparrow actually talks about that. He's like, founders, they embody this unique blend of visionary and salesperson,
Right.
which makes total sense when you think about it.
Absolutely.
Because especially in those early days,
Uh-huh.
you're not just selling a product.
Yeah.
You're selling your passion and your expertise.
Exactly. And Sparrow actually says this. He says early stage companies are like guerrilla fighters.
Wow.
They're just going out there and they're just trying to grab any traction that they possibly can.
Like hustle and personal connections.
Yeah, exactly.
But that doesn't really scale.
It doesn't, and that's where this all gets very, very interesting.
So Sparrow calls this like the transition challenge, and he
Yeah.
really doesn't sugarcoat it at all. He's like, founder-led businesses hit a wall when they try to grow.
Yeah, and this is where a lot of founders, I think, get it wrong, or they make a classic mistake,
Yep.
which is that they go, okay, sales are slowing down, we need to hire more salespeople.
Right. More salespeople always works.
Always works, just hire more. But that's actually not addressing the root problem. And he uses this analogy. It's like you have a leaky faucet and you just keep turning the water pressure up.
Oh.
That doesn't fix the leaky faucet.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know hiring more salespeople isn't the answer. So what does Sparrow actually suggest?
So he suggests something that he calls systematizing the founder's knowledge.
Okay.
Which essentially means taking all of that intuition and all of those gut feelings that have driven the success of the company to this point and actually turning those into repeatable processes that anyone can follow.
So that makes a lot of sense. But I imagine for some founders, that's a really hard thing to do, to let go
Oh, absolutely.
of that secret sauce.
Yeah, it's like saying, hey, take my secret sauce and write down the recipe.
Yeah.
And it really requires a shift in mindset for a lot of these founders. They have to go from being the doer to being more like the architect. You build the systems that allow other people to thrive.
Mhm.
And he talks about how, this transition a lot of times involves bringing in sales professionals
Mhm.
who can actually come in and provide a data-driven approach to sales, which a lot of founders, they don't think that way.
Right. They're just like, go get them.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
just figure it out. But he emphasizes that it's not enough to just bring them in and say, okay, go do it.
Right. So no more trial by fire.
No more trial by fire. He says, these companies really need to create a structured training program
Okay.
where they actually capture the founder's insights.
So like almost like build a knowledge base for your sales team?
Exactly. Yeah, like
Yeah.
how do you qualify a lead?
Yeah.
A lot of founders, they just have this sixth sense. They're like, oh, yeah, this is a good lead. Or no, this isn't a good lead.
I've seen that.
But if they don't document that process, then how is anybody else going to know how to do that?
Right. It's all locked in their head.
Yeah, it's all locked in their head. So he talks about, documentation, documenting things like your ideal customer profile, documenting common objections that you get from potential customers, and also documenting, your closing strategies, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So
Right.
document.
Document. That's right.
But what about those companies that maybe aren't at the point where they're ready to hire a whole sales team?
Right.
Sparrow mentioned something called fractional alternatives.
Yes, and that's where things get really interesting. We've all heard of these fractional CEOs and fractional CMOs.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like having an expert on call, right?
Right.
So they can come in, look at your business, tell you what's working, what's not, and then like build those systems that Sparrow's talking about.
Yeah, it's more than a temporary fix. I mean, it's really about like if you think of it like bringing in a master chef
Okay.
to revamp your restaurant menu. They don't just come in and cook a few dishes and then leave. They're actually going to like teach your team how to make those dishes consistently every single time.
Okay. I like that analogy.
Yeah, and that's really what fractional leadership is all about.
I'm starting to see why Sparrow's so into this model.
Yeah.
Because it's like you get all that expertise,
Yeah.
but you don't have to make a long-term commitment.
Right, exactly. And it's especially helpful for, founder-led businesses that are struggling to scale.
Okay.
He gave this example of one company that had this underperforming sales team.
Mm,
And they knew that they needed to make some changes,
right.
but they just didn't know where to start.
Yeah.
So they brought in a fractional sales leader, and that fractional sales leader was able to come in and analyze all their processes
Okay.
and actually help them implement a new CRM system
Oh, wow.
that completely transformed their sales pipeline.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it was a huge win for them.
It sounds like fractional leadership is like a great bridge between the founder's vision and the need for these systems.
It is, absolutely. And it actually ties in perfectly with this concept of leading by example that Sparrow talks about.
Okay.
He emphasizes that, for this transition to really work,
Mm-hmm.
founders need to shift their mindset. They need to go from being the hero to being the coach.
Okay. So less lone wolf, more team captain.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And that's where the examples of, Steve Jobs and Judy Faulkner
Yes.
really come in. I mean, these are legendary founders
Right.
who managed to build incredibly successful companies.
Hmm.
But they did it by empowering others to execute their vision.
I've got to be honest, though, it sounds kind of intimidating to step back from something you've poured your heart and soul into.
I can understand that. And that's why I think, Sparrow really emphasizes that this transition is a conscious and planned effort. So he encourages founders to start by identifying their strengths and their weaknesses.
Yeah.
Are you a brilliant strategist, but you struggle with details?
Right.
Are you a master networker, but, paperwork just bogs you down?
Yeah.
Once you know where you excel and where you need support, then you can start to build a team that complements your skills.
It's like a puzzle. You got to make sure all the pieces fit.
Exactly. You got it. And Sparrow actually reminds us that, this transition isn't just about internal growth.
Okay.
It's also about building a company that's attractive to potential investors or acquirers.
That's true.
They want to see that this business is going to be able to thrive even without the founder there.
Right. It's about building a sustainable company, not just a successful one.
Right. And that's why Sparrow's insights are so valuable.
Yeah.
He really gives founders a roadmap to navigate this tricky transition, a way to build a legacy that goes beyond their individual contributions.
So it's about building something that will last longer than you.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that.
So if you were advising a founder who's starting to feel that tension between, keeping that personal touch, but also needing to scale.
Right.
What's the one piece of advice that you would give them?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. But I think if I had to choose just one,
Yeah.
it would be start documenting your processes now.
Okay.
Even if you're not ready to bring on a team,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're not ready to hire a fractional leader, just start capturing all those insights and those gut feelings that are driving your success.
Write it down.
Write it down, create a system,
Okay.
build a knowledge base. It's like you're creating a cheat sheet for future growth.
Document those founder instincts.
Yes.
Because they're gold.
They are pure gold. And trust me, as your business grows, that documentation is going to become invaluable.
I can see that.
You'll be able to use it to train new employees, delegate effectively, and ultimately build a company that can thrive
Okay.
without you having to be involved in every single decision.
This has been a really eye-opening conversation.
It has.
I feel like I'm starting to understand what it takes to scale a founder-led business.
Me too. And, I think what's so powerful about Sparrow's work is that it's not just about business.
Right.
It's really about leadership. It's about recognizing that true growth often requires us to step back and empower others
Right.
to excel.
And that applies to so many areas of life.
It does. It
Yeah.
does. Whether you're leading a team, building a movement, or even just raising a family.
Right.
It's about understanding that sometimes the most impactful thing you can do is actually create a system
Okay.
that allows others to shine.
Okay, I like that. So before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listener with a question to think about. If you were advising a founder who's feeling that tension between, keeping that personal touch, but also needing to scale, what's the one question you would ask them to, get them thinking about that transition?
That is a really great question. I think I would probably ask them, what does success look like to you 5 years from now? Because I think a lot of founders they get so caught up in the day-to-day
Right.
that they kind of lose sight of the bigger picture.
So get them thinking beyond the next quarter.
Exactly. Yeah. Do they see themselves, 5 years from now still being the primary salesperson? Or do they envision themselves leading a team of, high-performing sales professionals? Do they want to be, deeply involved in every single decision? Or do they want to build a company that can, you know, basically run itself if they decide to go on vacation for a month?
Okay.
And so I think, getting clear on those long-term aspirations can really help founders make decisions
Yeah.
that support their vision.
Align your actions with your aspiration.
Exactly.
I like that. So for our listener out there who's maybe wrestling with this very question right now, what's the one key takeaway you hope they walk away with today?
I think the biggest takeaway is that transitioning from a founder-led model to a more scalable system,
Yeah.
it's not about, diminishing the founder's role. It's about amplifying it. It's about taking all that passion and all that expertise and turning it into something that can really change the game.
It's not about letting go. It's about leveling up.
I love that. Yeah.
Well, we have covered a lot of ground today, but this is really just the beginning. I hope
Yeah.
you're feeling inspired to learn more about this and maybe go check out Paul Sparrow's work directly.
Yeah.
Or, look into the stories of Steve Jobs and Judy Faulkner that we talked about today, because their stories are really incredible and they really prove that you can build systems that help people achieve really extraordinary things.
Absolutely. And remember, this isn't just about business. These principles, they can apply to any area where you're trying to scale your impact. So whether you're leading a team, building a movement, or even, just trying to make a difference in your community, the key is to find ways to systematize your knowledge, empower others, and create something that can thrive without you having to be directly involved.
That's a great message. So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing those boundaries, because true leadership isn't about being the only one who can do it. It's about creating a system where everyone can excel.
That's right.
Until next time, happy diving.
Happy diving.
And remember, the most valuable insights are often just below the surface, so keep digging.